Welcome to ICSS Sunday Morning Marxist Forum. A reminder before we start, we are recording our presentations and the following discussions, and we are posting these for our wider audience. The videos will be available on our YouTube channel, ICSS Marxist, and our website, icssmarx.org, in the next couple of days. We are also on Rumble, and I'll post the links later in our chat today. Please visit our website, icssmarx.org, to view past programs, sign up to receive weekly notification emails about upcoming programs, view the schedules, contact us, or to donate to support this educational forum. I would also like to thank those who have and still continue to support us through their valuable donations. My name is Mehmet Bayram, and I'll be hosting this session on Sunday, April the 5th, 2026. For over 15 years, ICSS Sunday Morning Marxist Forum programs have been a platform for diverse presentations on various topics. This meeting is a comradely forum for political discourse and debate. The opinions expressed here are those of the participants, and they do not necessarily represent those of ICSS. However, we are united in our respect for the work of Karl Marx, and we believe that his work remains relevant today. Our understanding is taken from Karl Marx's 11th thesis on Feuerbach. The philosophers have only interpreted the world in various ways. The point, however, is to change it. Now, as the U.S. imperialist war against the sovereign nation of Iran continues with no end in sight, we will be talking to a good friend of mine and my editor, Ergin Demirhan, from Iran's neighbor, Türkiye. The war started by the US and Israel is escalating and is in no way limited to Iran alone. As we hopefully will hear, other countries under the direct order of the US imperialism have been involved and are fulfilling their fair share of the assault against the Iranian people. However, the current situation in the world sees a rising economic bloc, the BRICS, and the subservient ruling classes of some neo-colonial countries now see the cracks in imperialism that may give them a better negotiating position to chip away some more benefits from their imperialist bosses by trending towards the BRICS bloc. Turkey is one such country. The Erdogan regime is a staunch member of NATO and the Western world, acting as a sub-imperialist by itself in the region. While the country itself is completely bankrupt and has hit rock bottom due to failing capitalism, being a client state of imperialism, corruption, cronyism, and mismanagement, it serves as the extended arm of the US in the region, as well as in Africa, where it pretends to exert some pressure. Being in close proximity to Russia and its economic relationship with it, Turkey tries pleasing NATO, Ukraine, Israel on the one side, while it tries to preserve its under-the-cover relationship with Russia. However, as it occurred many times before, its every attempt blows in its face as it is forced to play its role in the NATO imperialist bloc. Turkish ruling classes are tied to imperialism by their umbilical cord, but are trying to gain few more crumbs from all sides if they can. This includes trading and negotiating with Israel, while publicly they champion the Palestinian causes. However, the class conflict at home in Turkey has brought the regime to a boiling point. Turkey's bankruptcy is shown in its inability to even pay the interest of their loans. Very recently, it put its new bridges, highways, and other infrastructures for sale to international buyers in the latest wave of privatizations. Even if they receive the full asking price, it will only pay for 12 days of interest of their due loans. One dimension of the class conflict demonstrates itself as the so-called Kurdish question. Since the formation of the modern Turkey in 1923, Kurds have been denied their very basic rights that were promised to them if they had joined the so-called liberation war in those years. Today, the Kurds, with more than 40 million people, are without a state and are divided among four countries: Syria, Iraq, Iran, and Turkey. Their struggle for their independent sovereign Kurdistan involves all these countries and other geopolitical interests. Turkey looks at the Kurds as a threat to its national existence. Turkey has drawn a red line against any, even a mild formation of Kurdish autonomy anywhere in the world. Turkey has officially protested Japan for even having Kurdish language classes in some colleges. When the Turkish Republic failed to prevent the formation of Kurdish enclave in Iraq and Syria, as a last-ditch effort, it is now trying to cajole the Kurds by, again, promises that it has no intention of keeping. It is important that this opening, as it is called, towards the Kurds, came before the attack on Iran, where everyone expected a US support for the Kurds, who could rise up and help US in its imperialist attack. For Turkey, it is better to kiss the hand you cannot bend when the US seems to be behind the Kurds. So Ali Ergin Demirhan is the editor of revolutionary Marxist news and editorial site Sendika.org in Turkey. He is also on the publishing board of the same site. Many charges have been filed against him and are pending. The latest being siding with the French humor magazine Charlie Hebdo to protect the freedom of speech. He's facing a 5-month prison term for the charge alone. In 2017, the offices of Sendika.org were raided at 5:30 in the morning, and Ali was detained. He was also detained and questioned in 2018 due to writing an article titled, "We Can't Stop This Dictatorship." He was also charged many times in 2018, 19, 21 for insulting the president for his social media posts. He also faced several separate court cases over a single tweet he had sent. He is one of the founders of the BDS movement in Turkey. He is joining us from the city of Adana, where he was a part of the large demonstration against one of the largest US NATO bases in Turkey. Since Turkey will be hosting the NATO summit later on in summer, rallies and protests against all US and NATO presence in Turkey have picked up recently. When Iran declared all bases in the region as legitimate military targets, Turkey was forced to renounce the NATO bases as being totally Turkish and having no foreign soldiers, which is a complete lie. So welcome, Ali. How did the demonstration go today, protesting the NATO base involved in Iranian war?
There were several socialist and revolutionary groups marching in front of the base, and there were police barriers protecting the base from the people. The Incirlik base has a long history, but now with the war in Iran, the base is a danger, is calling danger for Adana, the southern Turkey. And we are newly learning that there are new naval commands and new NATO armies are being found in Turkey after the summit in 2023 in Lithuania against Russia, against Middle East, and against Northern Africa. So we can say that Turkey isn't officially in war now, but it's in the center of the big regional war. It won't stop in Iran. It will go to Black Sea, Russia, and it will move Northern Africa. It will move the other lands, so Middle East and Eastern Mediterranean. Now, what we are living in Turkey, historically, as you said, Turkey is a member of NATO since 1952. But the problem isn't just being a member of NATO, because as you see, Spain can say no to USA. Even Spain is a member of NATO, but Turkey can't say it because Turkey isn't an really independent state. It's a neo-colony of US imperialism because of the dependency in military and in economy. Economically and militarily, Turkey is dependent to USA and as an neo-colony of US imperialism, Erdogan or another ruling party in the head of Turkey has to do whatever US demands. Not just all imperialism, but what US demands, they have to do. Being a member of NATO is one problem, being a neo-colony is another problem. And the foreign policy of Erdogan and Erdogan's party, Justice and Development Party, is another problem. What's that? Some say it's neo-Ottomanism. What's neo-Ottomanism? You know, Ottoman Empire was in the Eastern Europe and Black Sea and Middle East and Northern Africa. And we have cultural, historical ties to these lands. And also these lands are being integrated to the imperialist system after the Cold War, after the collapse of Soviet Union. And there is problems. Some states like Iran or ex-Libya, the Gaddafi's Libya, or Assad's Syria, are refusing to be a direct part of that imperialist hegemony of US. So, or ex-Soviet countries like Georgia or Ukraine needs help to be integrated to the system. And Turkey, what Turkey does, Turkey, not just like Israel, but it is like a soft power in the region with its military, but with its soft power, easing the problems of imperialist system, easing the problems of imperialist integration. They say we have we don't have we have a big army, but not they know that it isn't an independent army. Turkey is a big country, big economy, but it's a dependent economy. They know that. And they also say, yes, we don't have money, we don't have enough military power, but we have cultural ties, we have a geopolitical importance as Turkey, as a remnant of Ottoman Empire. It's in the middle of these lands that US wants to take and reshare as an imperialist power. So neo-Ottomanism isn't a project of reviving the empire, but it's a project of an ally of US empire, a client and a neo-colonial, as a neo-colonial of US empire. Turkey tries to be AKP Turkey tries to be a regional power by easing the problems of imperialist system, the US imperialism, or solving the problems of US imperialism in the region. And another thing which makes the problem complicated and which makes Turkey a puppet of Trump and the administration. As you see and listen here, Erdogan does whatever Trump says, or Erdogan doesn't do anything if Trump says don't do it. A few days ago, if you remember, Trump said that Erdogan is a good guy. He says the king of Saudi Arabia kissing my ass, but for Erdogan, when he speaks about Erdogan, he says he's a good guy. Why? Erdogan says nothing against US, nothing against NATO, or nothing against Trump. There is a personal thing because Erdogan doesn't have the support of majority in Turkey now. Yes, it's nearly a quarter of a century he's ruling Turkey. He had a big support, big public support years ago, but especially after the local elections in 2024, it's obvious that he lost the game in a free election. His party is the second party now. He doesn't have enough money to regain the support of Turkish majority of Turkish society. So what's the problem? The problem is that Turkey economy isn't an independent economy. We don't have resources of energy. We are dependent. Also about energy, we are importing our oil and 90% of our need. So the ruling classes need money and they need financial support of imperialism. Because of that, US can say that, yes, I will support you, but you will do whatever I want. To maintain his power, to maintain his dictatorship, Erdogan needs to maintain the support of Trump. So he has to do whatever Trump wants. As a NATO member, as a neo-colony, as a proactive or neo-Ottomanist foreign policies government, and as a dictator who hasn't big financial or energy resources like the others, Erdogan has to do whatever US wants. And because of that, in 2023, when NATO members decided to reshape Middle East and continue the war in Gaza to till the end. What's the end? The end is the US-Iran war. It was obvious in 2023 when they decide to reshape the region. They also decide to reshape Turkey's policy too. For the last 2 years, we saw it. Yes, they decided in 2023, but we saw it in 2024. What they started after the United Nations summit in September 2024, Erdogan left US, come to Turkey, and he said that we are going on a war with Israel, so we have to be a nation, and all the political parties, all the organized groups have to unite against the enemy. What's the enemy? Israel. So Kurds and the Republicans, all the opposition, you have to be with us. And they started a new negotiation process with Kurds. They demanded the unarmization of PKK and other armed groups of Kurdish movements. And also, they said that we will integrate the Turkish and Kurdish people in a democratic, peaceful base. it was one process, but it wasn't the only thing. The second thing, they started to attack the Republican Party, Republican People's Party, the founding founder of the Republic, and now the first party. It's in main opposition, but it has the support of the majority now. And you know the famous mayor, the strongest candidate of the next presidency elections, Ekrem İmamoğlu, the mayor of Istanbul. He was arrested after a phone call of Erdogan and Trump in March 2025, last year, 1 year ago. And it wasn't only arrestment, they arrested many mayors in Istanbul, the towns, and also some big cities like Antalya, Bursa, and these prosecutions, these arrestments are going on. What's the relation of these operations and the war? In every imperialist strategical attempt in Middle East, they reshape the Turkey's policy. In the 1980 coup d'etat, it was after the Iran Revolution, when US lost an ally in Middle East. They wanted to protect their allies in Turkey and their boys. They said that our boys done it. When the Turkish military made the coup d'etat in 1980 and erased all the working class organizations, all the revolutionary organizations at that time. And in near history, after 1980, remember the invasion of Iraq in 2003. Before US move, there was Ecevit government. Ecevit is a center-left figure and some kind of nationalist Republican, and he has been always against the US policies in the Middle East. They wanted they intervened the Turkish policy, and that government they overthrew Ecevit, and with the early elections, we saw that Erdogan came into power before the invasion of Iraq, and they wanted Turkey to participate that war and open their lands to US soldiers at that time. And Turkish society, huge crowded, led by the left and anti-imperialist organizations of Turkey, was opposing that. But also within state, there was another opposition from army, Turkish army. After that, we witnessed big prosecutions against Turkish army after the invasion of Iraq. Why? Because Turkey refused to be a part of that invasion. Erdogan tried to be, but Turkish army and the Turkish people opposed it. Anyway, after that, we witnessed a NATO summit in Turkey, 2004, after the invasion of Iraq. And they started to reshape Turkish army and Turkish policy by the help of Erdogan. Now, we we are witnessing a similar process. We are witnessing a similar process, and it isn't just about the opposition. It's also about the ruling parties. They are reshaping AKP and MHP, the Nationalist Movement Party. They are reshaping it. We are witnessing some arrestments of ex-deputies and resignation of some important figures, and the total Turkish policy and Turkish society is being reshaped for the last 2 years. And I can say the main reason is the imperialist strategy. And the US imperialism wants to use Turkey more usefully, and says, please solve the Kurdish question. And I don't want my two allies attacking each other. And I don't want any armed group, non-governmental armed group or revolutionary armed group. I want all the groups to be integrated to the system by the help of X or Y. And Turkey, as an US ally, but with an Islamist government, tries to make it easier in Palestine, for example. Yes, Erdogan and Netanyahu hate each other, says bad words to each other, but they are helping US. Netanyahu is destroying, and Erdogan is inviting Hamas to unarm and integrate the system. And also their peace council, Gaza, the peace council of Trump for Gaza, Turkey is working for Trump now. So, charades. Anyway, it isn't just the integration process, or it's not just about the Kurdish process. I said a naval command and a new NATO army, a new corps for southern mission will be founded in the coming years. They are working, and we learned it newly, but we learned that they decided it in 2023. One is in Adana with the Incirlik base. Incirlik base eases the process, and there will be a new corps headed by a Turkish commander, but it will be multinational NATO force with 40 to 50,000 soldiers. What will be the mission of that corps? To defend the interest of NATO, the security of NATO in Southern Caucasus, in Georgia, Azerbaijan, Armenia, in Eastern Mediterranean, in Black Sea, and Northern Africa. And also the naval command will, it's semi-independent, but it will be integrated to NATO. It will be in Istanbul, the Black Sea side of Istanbul, in Beykoz, and it will work for Ukraine. The peace in Black Sea, but against Russia and for Ukraine. So the Turkish army, Turkish policy, Turkish society are being reshaped for a new war order, of new imperialist war order in the whole region. And I think Trump and all the US ruling classes see Erdogan as a very useful tool for their future plans, because they can use him very effectively. His ideological position as a weak dictator who needs financial and political support of the foreigners, especially US or the Western Europe. Erdogan is a big tool, a useful tool for US imperialism. So we aren't officially in war now, but we are in the center of these regional war, the future war plans. But now already we are facing the results of these strategies, plans, and designs. For example, in November, did you remember a plane crash in Southern Caucasus, and military plane fall and 20 soldiers died. 20 Turkish soldiers died. We don't know the reason. They say that it's an accident, but they say it 4 months after the accident. They say that it's an accident. We can't believe it. After then, drones started to visit Turkey from Black Sea. They are entering from Black Sea and coming to capital city Ankara. We don't know the origin, Iran, Russian, or another country. We don't know. In December, the head of the Libyan military was, they were visiting Ankara. When they went to leave Ankara, their plane landed, and then it also crashed. And the head of the four officers, head of the Libyan allies of Turkish allies of Libyan army died in that accident. And Russia started to hit Turkish ships in Ukraine seas, and then in Qatar with a new helicopter accident, we lost another Turkish army officers and two engineers of arm industry. And these accidents, these assaults, these missiles coming from Iran, they say it's coming from so-called Iran missiles, but Iran says we don't send those missiles. It's a false flag operation, but it's 4 times they visited Turkey, and the NATO forces in Eastern Mediterranean hit that missiles, and they said that you see Iran is attacking you, please participate our war. And we are defending you as NATO. And after that missile cases, they sent two new Patriot missile systems for the Turkish bases. One in Kürecik, it's an NATO system following the Iran missiles. It's working since 2012. And also the Incirlik base, Mehmet mentioned the importance of that base. And there will be more. And Turkey will be another force, not just like Israel, but Israel is a bad boy, Turkey is a good boy for US imperialism, and they will try to reshape the region together. but things won't go as they went, because there isn't only the plans of imperialists or their allies. Also, there's Turkish society, the resistance and uprising moments. We witnessed another uprising in 2025, last year, after the arrestment of İmamoğlu. Turkish people went on streets and led by the main opposition party, but not just the members of the main opposition party, also the youth movement, the university students, and also the poor people of Turkey suffering poverty because of the policies of Erdogan, and also suffering poverty because of the wars. You know, the food inflation. Turkey is the first country with the food inflation. It's very, very, very expensive now. The food, energy, and housing, the main needs for human life are very, very expensive. The pandemic was one shock. After then, the Ukraine war, another shock, and the Iran war is the third shock, skyrocketing the inflation and unemployment rates. Now, in Adana, Mehmet knows that it's a very beautiful city, and the farms very cheap vegetables. For example, it was the prices were prices. For example, 1 Turkish liras you can buy from a field. 1 Turkish lira, for example, 1 kilo lemon, 1 Turkish lira. But in the market, it's 35. Why? Because of the energy prices, skyrocketing energy prices, skyrocketing inflation. The poverty is a big problem for working class of Turkey, and also for Erdogan, because his support base is decreasing. His support is decreasing between the poor working class people, and the things are worsening the situation for him. And I believe that we will witness bigger uprisings and resistance in Turkey against the rule of Erdogan because of that poverty. The class conflict and class war is the main thing reshaping Turkish society and reshaping Turkish policy. They saw it in 2024 local elections. They saw it, so they are fighting against this class reality, working class reality. They are trying to make working class without any policy, without any voice. They try to pacificate the sectors of working class and youth, etc., but they aren't successful. Yes, Turkey is the biggest jail for journalists. Turkey is the biggest jail for opposition figures, both Kurds and Republicans, and also leftists, and sometimes Islamist and right-wing opposition. But the prisons aren't enough for all the people of Turkey. And there is a big reality of social opposition. They can close parties, they can arrest candidates, but they can't arrest all these people, and these people are resisting for nearly 25 years. They are resisting Erdogan. Erdogan couldn't take all the things, and the people didn't give up the fight for 25 years. I think, and I believe it's about the new class reality of Turkey. Now, 90% of Turkish people are living in cities. The waged labor, 25 million waged workers we have, and 5 million public employees. And with the migrants from Syria and Afghanistan, there is a huge working class of Turkey, and the majority of Turkey are experiencing the capitalist reality, and their minds are shaping in that class contradictions, class consciousness. And before 2000, in 90s, we could talk about the for example, religion or ethnicity is a big barrier against leftist policies. It's a big tool for ruling parties. But now, not just the Alevites, not just the secular people, not just the supporters of the PKK opposing government, also the conservative working class people are opposing Erdogan too. It's about, for example, about the Palestine case. Everybody knows Erdogan says, I love Palestine, but everybody knows Erdogan is trading with Israel. It's the biggest trade partner in Middle East of Israel. And what's the problem? It isn't a new thing, but the new thing is that the conservative people says that my interests are different from Erdogan's. Erdogan's interests are with the rich people, are with the traders, are with the capitalists, and they have common interests with also Israel. His speech aren't enough for me. I am experiencing another life with my neighborhood, with my neighbors. And in my neighborhood, we as the poor, living seculars, Kurds, Turks, conservatives, but we are working class. The class conflicts are more effective, more important now than the cultural conflicts, which was easing the problems of right-wing governments before. Everybody saw that in 2024 local elections. It's the first time the election map was read like that. Some cities in East and in West traditionally always voted for right, voted for left. Yes, we can say it isn't a Marxist socialist party. Yes, it's true. But for those people, they voted for left. They voted for equality. They voted for anti-imperialism. They voted for Palestine. They voted for justice. They voted for freedom and against Erdogan. They voted against Erdogan. So in this war, what's our task or what's our case? We can't say that we have to support that country against that country. It isn't our work. It's our task. What's our task? Our task is organizing the class war against that imperialist war and their allies. We have to do it, we must do it, and we can do it. As the Turkish society transformed a working class society, and class consciousness is stronger than the, for example, the years before. Now it's a new thing. Anyway, I don't know if it is enough.
Yeah, actually, it's a very good time to give it a break. Thank you, Ali. It was very informative, especially, maybe in the questions and answers, we'll come back to that, the transformation of the society where, as you mentioned, the cultural conflicts are not as obvious than the class conflicts, which is a very interesting development, I believe. So before we go to the question and answers, I'd like to remind people to please visit our website, icssmarks.org, and sign up for our news or mailing list, and also try to donate if you can. We are going to next week. We have a very special session, and our own Peter Fay is going to talk about imperialism or the eclipse of imperialism and the American working class. As you know, there was a time when the working class did have much more benefits than what we have today. They could support their families, they could buy a home, and so on and so forth. And the unionization was part of this, or let me say, benefits of imperialism at that time was part of this to help the American working class. But is that so now? What has changed, and where will it go? Should we then fight for more union rights, for more unionization, or should we have a class party, revolutionary party? And these questions are being debated everywhere. So Peter is going to put these on the table next week. Please do join us. It's going to be a very interesting subject and a very interesting debate I think we are going to have. So let me just remind before we go to Q&A that this is a comradely meeting, and we do respect each other. And we try to limit our question and answers of the participants to 2 minutes. If you can, please try to adhere to that. And let's try to stick to one question at a time. And if you want to ask questions, please go to the bottom of your Zoom window. There is a reaction button there, react, and you can raise your hand there. So I will try to accommodate everybody who has raised their hands. And before even we go there, I'm going to ask Ali to get into what I think was an earth-shattering event that happened in Turkey about a year or year and a half ago. The Nazi party that was for even assassination of Kurds helped, and just assassination, killing, extermination of the Kurds suddenly changed course. And it started to say that Apo, the leader of the so-called terrorist organization PKK, could come to the parliament and talk. They are negotiating even as we speak. And this Nazi party started to advocate for the human rights, for civil rights of the Kurdish minority. Can you please try to address that a little bit, because it was like 180 degrees turn. Is it related to the Iranian war that was coming up, or what was it related to? Because Kurds are in 4 countries, especially these days, the ones in Syria, Turkey is focused on. So if you can please explain that a little bit, then we'll go to questions and answers. Thank you.
Okay, Mehmet, what they saw that with the new war, they saw that the Iran-US war is coming, and it will reshape all the Syria, Iraq, and Iran. So they have the experience of Iraq when US intervened Iraq, the Kurds, the Barzani and Talabani take an autonomous power, and there is a Kurdish state now. As you mentioned when you opened the session, you said that it was a red line for Turkey, a Kurdish state. But we have a Kurdish state in Iraq now. And they saw that there will be one or two more Kurdish states with the collapse of Syrian state and with the possible collapse of Iranian regime. And Kurds can take the advantage of these new process. It's the strategic thinking of Öcalan. Öcalan founded YPG and PYD in 2003 when US invaded to Iraq. But he also founded not just in Iraq, but in all four countries, in Turkey, PKK, in Iran, PEJAK, in Syria, PYD, and in Iraq, PCDK, four different parties. What he said at that time, US will reshape Middle East and we can take advantage of it as the Kurds, because the maps will reshaped again. So when the Gaza war started to be a regional war, they saw it, both the state and Kurds. And when US decided to move on first in Lebanon, then Syria, and then Iran, it isn't Israel. Everybody knows it's US fighting with the flag of Israel and also with the flag of US flag. And at that time, Erdogan must thought that Erdogan and Bahçeli, we have to control the situation. We have to control it. US won't let us to attack Kurds in Syria, but if we do whatever US wants, we can take advantage of it, and we have to stop Kurds to taking advantage of it. With arms, it isn't easy, because for 40 years, Turkish armed forces, Turkey, using arms, and they couldn't finish Kurdish armed movement. It isn't solution. It isn't a solution. US and Israel can use Kurds in Iran, in Syria, in Iraq. So they must thought that we can't let it. And for Kurds also, Öcalan says that if we fight, yes, we can fight. They will use us. US and Israel will use us. But they will leave us also. They will leave us, and Kurdistan will be new Gaza. Yes, we can fight, but we can't win the game. and Turkey is a member of NATO. US may support us for a conjuncture, for a limited time, but strategically, US will support Turkey. So we don't have a chance at this time. We have to negotiate and we have to finish the war in Iraq, in northern Iraq, because with the technological developments, the guerrilla warfare isn't as easy as it before. Now they are living in tunnels. The guerrilla is living in tunnels. It isn't easy to move in Turkish mountains or in Iran, in northern Iraq now, and also in Syria. They are when US says that I won't support Kurds. Kurds have no chance against Turkish armed forces. And as you saw in January, US wanted Kurds to participate the war against the Shia groups in Iraq. Kurds refused that. After then, US said that, yes, Jolani, it's free for you to retake your lands from Kurds in Syria. Kurds lost the oil fields, Kurds lost the dams, Kurds lost the big fields of grains. And now they have a very small land controlled by the Kurdish groups. And so it was we can't say that it will that there won't be any war between Turks and Kurds, but now it is difficult for both sides to start a war against each other. But Kurds say that we will leave arms, but we want democracy and state and law. But Erdogan says no. Democracy for Erdogan is his power. And you see now when the government is attacking even the founder party of Republic, the main opposition party, how can they give any rights for Kurds? They did nothing. Just words, but the word isn't a peace process, or word isn't a we are solving the Kurdish question. They are saying that we are finishing the terror. The official name is Turkey without terror. They didn't release any Kurdish politician, even Demirtas. He is in jail for 10 years. Enough is enough. The constitutional judgments and the Human Rights Court of Europe all said that release that guy. The Turkish courts said that release that guy, but Erdogan didn't release even one important Kurdish figure. There is just words, and I don't think that they will solve it with peace and democracy.
Great. Yeah, thank you very much for that information. Now we have three people with the raised hands. So I'm going to give to Gülden first. Gülden, go ahead and unmute yourself.
Hi, Ali. It's so good to see you after all these years. And thank you very much for joining us and finding time in between your struggles. I don't have many questions, but maybe recently in the Turkish media, I read that Erdogan is allowing to establish another NATO base in Bosphorus. Is it true? Is there such thing
Yes.
going on? It's just a rumor.
Yes. It is the new naval command with the Ukraine army, Ukraine Navy, and it's a multinational naval command, and it will defend their military interests in Black Sea, and it will work against Russia. And Erdogan and Putin, they were good friends, but for the last 4 or 5 months, they broke up. They aren't talking to each other. And Turkish and Russian relations are cold now because Erdogan has always invited NATO to be more active in Black Sea. And now they say, okay, go on. And there is Ukraine war, help Ukraine, and NATO will be more active. But that naval command isn't officially at a NATO naval command. Isn't officially, but it will work with NATO. It will be integrated.
Yeah, thank you, Ali, for that. Next, we go to Stan. Stan Woods, please go ahead with the question.
Hi, can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, great. It's an interesting coincidence that the theme of today's session is on Turkey and the class struggle in Turkey, because right before I logged on, I was watching YouTube where a increasingly well-known Turkish-American podcaster named Hasan Piker was defending himself against all these numerous attacks from CNN to Fox to the New York Times and the New York Post, bipartisan unity there. The New York Post is a prominent Republican paper, and the New York Times is usually pro-Democrat. And they're attacking him because of his steadfast support of the Palestinian struggle and his opposition to the war in Gaza. And they're worried about him because apparently at one time alone, on one podcast alone, he had 80,000 people logged in. Think about that, 80,000 logged into one podcast. So he's been really relentlessly attacked. He's been falsely accused of being anti-Jewish and so on. So I thought that was very interesting. So back to the Palestinian struggle and Turkey. Some pseudo-intellectual commentators in the U.S. have said that, well, because of the role of Turkish imperialism 100 plus years ago, there isn't really much popular sympathy for the Palestinians in Turkey. I think that's BS, but I wonder if you could address that. The average person, worker in the street, intellectual, academic, whomever, what is the attitude towards what's going on in Gaza? You mentioned about the phony rhetoric of the leader, but what does the average person think? Thank you.
Mehmet, yanlış anlamadıysam Gazze'de olanlarla ilgili Türkiye...
No, what he's asking is that although there is political talk, but what do people on the street think about Palestine? The people on the street, what is their view of Palestine? Because there are some trends, especially maybe in the intellectuals and Kemalists, who do not support Palestine, because there are some people who say Arabs stabbed us in the back when there was when the Ottomans were going down. So there's that thing. And in United States, when a Turkish speaker from a podcast supported Palestine, there were like 80,000 people attacking him. So what is the
80,000 people supporting him?
Oh, I'm sorry, supported him.
80,000 people turned into one podcast alone. That's why they're going after him, because they're afraid of his influence, particularly in young people.
Great. Yeah. My correction is that they supported him. Okay. So what is the view of average person on the street in Turkey towards Palestine?
This is a little complicated problem because the Palestine case and the Hamas case are same and different cases. At first, Turkish left, Turkish secular people, also the Republicans, knew the Palestine case from the 1960s, 1970s. At that time, the secular or the revolutionary forces were leading the fight against Israel. So we have ties, the Turkish left, from Republicans to Kurds or the socialists, Marxists. We have historical ties, but when the leadership of the Palestine independence movement changed, it made people to say, I'm not feeling close to it. But in official speech, the Republicans, the Kurds, the socialists, and Islamists all say that we are against Israel and we are with Palestine. But the people in the streets, also mainly the Islamists, carrying with their Islamist flags, and says that it's our case. It's not an independence case. It's an Islamist case against Jews. Everybody hates Israel, but some secular and nationalist people, we can't say it's the majority. It's a minority, I think. It's a minority, but some of them are educated people and their voice are bigger than their body. They say that, yes, the Arabs, we Arabs, we are friends. They are our enemy. We don't have to support them. But it isn't in official speech. It isn't on a street demonstration. It's on social media. And we can't trust the things, the algorithms in social media. I can't say that it's a very weak, I can't say that it's so weak, but it isn't strong enough to shape the Turkish policy. The ruling even both the ruling party and the main opposition party organized big demonstrations for Palestine. Even the Republicans, whose base are the center-left, Republican, nationalist, secular. But there are some neo-fascist parties with 2 or 3% votes, like Zafer Party, led by Ümit Özdağ. They have a neo-fascist speech against migrants, against Syrians, against Arabs. Yes, sometimes they can't say directly we are against Palestine, but they say we don't have to support those Arabs who betrayed us in the First World War. Anyway.
Thank you for that, Ali. So now we're going to go to Janet. Please unmute yourself. Go ahead.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Ali, for joining us in this session and for your work. I'm reminded of, I was a passenger on the 2010 Gaza Freedom Flotilla, and all of us were arrested and spent a little time in prison in Israel. But we were rescued by Turkey. Who they sent 3 huge Turkish Airways planes, and I was on one of them, and we were on the tarmac for 12 hours because the Israelis hadn't released all the passengers that they were holding, and it was and while we were on the plane, one of the leaders of the IHH was talking about how Israel and Turkey might be at war, I mean, or they might go to war. And we were on the tarmac in Israel on a Turkish plane. Anyway, that didn't happen, and things kind of changed. But at that time, and when we arrived in Istanbul, there were crowds and crowds, and I mean, we were supported by the Turkish government. That said, I'm switching now to today's time. I have a question. Does the resistance within Turkey rely only on electoral politics to change things, or is any part of the resistance within Turkey or the Islamist resistance movement in Turkey armed and organized and similar to or aligned with the axis of resistance, such as Hezbollah, Hamas, Ansar Allah, and allied with Iran? And also, I mean, is related to that, is there a divide within the Turkish military?
Okay. Okay. Well, we can't say that it's impossible a war between Turkey and Israel. But both these two countries are allies of US imperialism, and they have direct ties in capitalist economy. They are big trade partners, and they have intelligence and military ties, direct ties. They are supporting each other, but they are in a competition for sharing Syria. South Syria is under control of Israel, and North Syria is under control of Turkey. Sometimes Israel warplanes are bombing some ex-military bases, and open sources claim that those bases are somewhere Turkish military or Turkish intelligence tries to take and found new bases for Turkey. Israel doesn't want Turkey to move towards south. They say that, please stop in Aleppo. It's your line, and it's our line. An open war, an official war between those two states isn't impossible, but very, very, very difficult. But they are in competition. They are in competition. So we can say that, yes, there is a conflict, not just ideological or not just about rhetoric, but it has some military things, militarily we can witness some operations, etc., interventions. But a direct war is very, very difficult because of the allies, because of their interests. They are together. They are a part of Gaza Peace Council. Trump invited Erdogan and Netanyahu, and both those guys, not directly Erdogan, but Hakan Fidan and Netanyahu, are working together.
Yeah.
Don't they know each other? They know each other. And they say that I will do it. Turkey as a AKP, Erdogan as a member of global Muslim Brotherhood network, also supporting the Muslim Brotherhood Palestine wing, Hamas. But they say that as Kurds, you will leave arms and you will integrate the process, the reshaping process of the region. So it isn't just supporting the resistance against Israel. No, the ideological phase is bigger. The ideological thing is bigger than, because they aren't supporting Hezbollah. Why? Hezbollah is Shia. Erdogan is an extremist Islamist. They are. They see the Shia people, Hezbollah, Ansarullah, also Iran, the Alevites in Turkey, the Arab Alevites in Syria. Now there is another genocide in Syria by the jihadists against Arab Alevites. Erdogan supporting them. Assad was resisting against Israel, Bashar Assad. He was an enemy of Israel. What did Erdogan do? He supported the Islamist groups. Also, Netanyahu supported that Islamist groups against Assad. And in your case, yes, government organized big crowds to support you, but it may change. For example, remember Mavi Marmara flotilla. At first, they said that we are supporting Mavi Marmara. 2 years, after 2 years, what did Erdogan do? He signed an agreement with Israel in Quds, not in Tel Aviv, officially in Quds. What does it mean? He said that I am accepting Quds as the capital of Israel. And officially, it means that. And at that time, the head of IHH said that you are betraying us. What did Erdogan say? What are you saying? You go with your own decision. Did you ask me when you are organizing that flotilla? He rescued you because it was good for him at that time. But next time, he can say that, why did you go there? Did you ask me? I don't have to help you. So the children of the Mavi Marmara martyrs are, for years, they are campaigning against Erdogan. They said, you betrayed us. You sent us to Israel and you left us. You give up the court, you give up the case about Mavi Marmara to sign the normalization process with Israel. Because you need the intelligence and you need the technology and you need the support of US and Israel. And also you need the points coming from the anti-Israel speech. But now less people believe Erdogan about that case. That's my answer for this question.
Yeah, thanks. I think there was one more thing quickly, Ali. She was asking whether the opposition in Turkey is all electoral, or are there other groups connected to Hezbollah or Iran who are fighting not electoral but in armed struggle?
In Turkey, we can talk a really effective armed struggle, but we can't say that all the opposition is electoral. Even the people voting for opposition parties says that the thing isn't just about the elections. Mass movements, mass mobilization, street policy, we say. Mass mobilization is more important than the elections because there is no free elections. Yes, there is elections in Turkey. 80 to 90% of Turkish society participate in that elections, but everybody knows that in the streets, even the supporters of the opposition parties, it isn't enough. We have to fight in streets, not with arms now, because Turkish state is a strong state, and they eliminated the Marxist armed groups and PKK's forces in mountains. Now, electoral or route-based organizations, we can see millions of people mobilize against Erdogan in all over Turkey sometimes, and force government to stop or do something, give a space, open a space for people, or give some rights, or stop some policies with the mobilizations, especially since the Gezi uprising in 2013. After Gezi uprising, we have witnessed many mass mobilization processes, but we can't talk about any big and effective armed group. Yes, there is ISIS in Turkey. There is still some small Marxist armed groups and some small forces of Kurdish movement, but now there isn't an effective and continuous armed struggle against government. No.
Thank you. That was good. For the sake of time, we are moving forward. We started late, so I'm going to allow a few more questions. Judith, can you please unmute yourself and go ahead,
I
please.
just asked for a clarification on something.
We really are late, and there's not much time. Sorry about that. Let's move on if possible, please, Janet. Judith, can you unmute yourself and ask the question? Yeah. Hello?
Am I
Judith?
unmuted? Hello?
Yes, you
Can
are.
you hear
Yes,
me?
you are. Go ahead.
Oh,
Yes,
okay.
we can
All
hear
right.
you.
Thank you. Okay. Well, thank you, Ali. Although I missed part of your presentation. What effect does the Turk Stream have on Turkish policy toward the entire region? Because do they have some alternative source of oil, or is that the main one? And also, I was wondering, Israel, a huge percentage of Israeli companies, the big companies, are American. All the high-tech companies, the big 7 or however many, the banks, arms, all kinds of very big capitalist countries are American ones are in Israel, and I was wondering if, and also some of them are in Saudi Arabia and a few other places, UAE, and I was wondering if Turkey had the same situation. Okay, I'll stop there. Thanks.
Thank you.
Let me answer very shortly because time is going on. There are many pipelines in Turkey from Russia, from Azerbaijan, and from Iraq. And also there are some plans pipelines from Gulf countries as an alternative of Gulf, now closed by Iran or Turkmenistan, from Turkmenistan. Especially one is very important for Israel, the oil of Azerbaijan, Bakü-Tiflis-Ceyhan pipeline. But there is a problem. Sometimes when there is a new project about that pipelines, they say that it's the project of the century. I heard many times for different pipelines, it's the biggest, it's the most important. No, there are alternatives, and Turkey need alternatives, and the imperialist powers who are using Turkey as a bridge have alternatives. Yes, Turkey isn't an energy-rich country. He needs the gas and oil from Russia, the gas and oil from Iraq and Israel, but he isn't dependent just one country. If it was like that, like South America or another country which is linked just one country, it was a big problem. But now the Western powers, the NATO, especially US, tries to add new pipeline projects, and they won't say that break up all the ties with Russia because they are neighbors, that this trade must go on, but they don't want Russia to control Turkey with that energy stick, because it's not just about pipelines. It's also about nuclear power. The nuclear power stations are built by Russia in Turkey, in Mersin, the neighbor city to Adana. So there are different interests competing in Turkey. The pipelines are a tool of that competition. But as I said, they aren't so important to be controlled by country. Anyway, I can say those. If it is enough.
Yeah, I think so. That was a good answer. So let's go to Jim. Please unmute yourself and go ahead.
Yes, thank you. Very nice presentation, very helpful. I was noticing online today, Middle East Eye was saying that Iraq is extending its airspace closure. Large protests in Iraq. And since Iraq also has dealt with being accused of having nuclear weapons, there's got to be some empathy the Iraqi people have with Iran, which is stronger than other countries. Being a neighbor of Turkey, if Iraq could or would join the war on Iran's side, what impact would that have on Turkey? Would that move Erbil from his neutrality, bouncing back and forth? Thank you.
Okay. Iraq isn't one country now. We can talk about two countries, Kurdistan and Arab country. In Arab country, there is also the sectarian conflicts, but the majority is Shia. And majority of the Shia people, not all the Shia people, but the majority of Shia people are supporting Iran. There is a fight. It isn't a fight. We can't say that Iraq is supporting Iran, but some Shia groups, some strong Shia groups in Iraq are attacking the US bases and the Kurdish entity to support Iran. So it affects Turkey through the pipelines. And Turkey is neighbor to Kurdistan now, not just the Arab part of the Iraq, neighbor to Kurdistan, and Turkish state and the northern Iraq, Kurdistan region are very good friends. The effects of the Iraq's participation to the war won't be more effective than the Syria or Iran. The effects will be small, I think. Okay.
Thank you. Now we go to a citizen of the planet, and then I have Richard Wright, who have not spoken, and then Janet wants to speak again. Okay, so let's go with the citizen of the planet. Go ahead, please.
Yes, thank you very much. Feel free to say that you've already answered what will be my question, if you felt that you did. But I'm wondering more directly how Turkey, whether the government or the people, feel about what many people are saying, that once Israel, with the US's treasure and blood, conquer what Israel might consider Imperial Israel in Palestine, many people are saying that Israel's next target would be Turkey. And I would say, you talked about the difficulties of Israel doing that, but whether Israel would reduce Turkey to a vassal state, and if the U.S. and in effect Israel would reduce Turkey to a vassal state like it has all the Gulf monarchies. And also someone asked that Janet was saying, is there a split in the Turkish military? Thank you.
If Israel attacks Turkey, they are going their fight in Syria. Already they are fighting in Syria. They say that we are neighbor with Syria now. We are neighbor with Israel now. The coalition ruling Turkey, Erdogan and Bahçeli, both these guys say that we are neighbor with Israel and we are on a fight. But what will be done? Israel wants to provoke and support Kurds against Turkey. And Öcalan says they are trying to use us. Don't be fooled. He calls his followers, don't be fooled. Don't be a tool of US and Israel. They will use and they will use you, and it will be a death for you, because they will leave you, and Turkey will attack as Israel attacks Gaza. So there is a war. There is a war, but this war is going by proxies. And with the negotiation process in Turkey, both state and Kurds, the leadership of Kurds, tried to prevent Kurdish movements be a proxy of Israel. So it's in the near future, I think we won't witness a direct war between Israel and Turkey. It is impossible. The war will go on in Syria, Iraq, and Iran, and the proxies or the intelligence or the unofficial elements will fight. And directly, it's nearly impossible. Nearly, not impossible, but nearly impossible.
Yeah, thank you for that, Ali. And Before we go to Richard, I think there was an announcement that needed to be done before, in our announcement segment. But Anne is Here. Anne, are you there? I think you had an announcement for Michael Parenti. Is
Yes,
Anne here? Yeah,
yes,
go
thank
ahead.
you. Can you hear me? Yeah, sorry I wasn't here earlier. I will try to watch the video because I'm very interested. But Michael Parenti's memorial will be on April 25th at the Unitarian Universalist Church in Kensington. That's not the one in Berkeley, but in Kensington, which means it's a drive. It's up in the hills between Berkeley and El Cerrito, I think. But maybe some carpooling can be arranged. Anyway, Christian Parenti, his son, and his daughter-in-law will be out here. We may arrange a live stream because there are people all around the world who have been moved by Michael and his death. And I think it's a way, right now, it's an important way of affirming what we're all committed to. He gave us so much. And if Paulina has the link with the details, you can RSVP.
It's there
Okay.
in the chat.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's all.
Thank you very much, and I'm
Okay.
sure people will be interested in that. Yes, Michael Parenti has contributed tremendously for this. Okay, so let's go to Richard. Richard, go ahead, please.
Thank you. I should have raised my hand earlier because, as usual, I ask probably more involved questions than should be asked. Earlier on, you mentioned, well, I guess I'm going to ask is as a member of a opposition group, how could you go into maybe some of the more of the demographics of the working class in Turkey, and more to the point, how you handle different, presumably the different ends of the spectrum of working class politics. I think that's important for us back here to maybe learn some lessons that we can apply in our organization, in our organizing. Thank you very much.
Mehmet, I couldn't.
Yeah, just
understand.
he wants to know the demographics, like what percentage of the working class is where in the spectrum, and how you organize among them so that maybe there's a lesson we can learn in organizing the working class here.
Okay. I told about the numbers, 25 million of waged workers and 5 million public employees, and some other migrants unofficially working and without papers. And we can say the majority of Turkish society is part of proletariat. And these people are just, the waged workers are just 14% of them, not 40, 14% of them are organized in unions, trade unions. And half of them have the right to strike and collective bargaining. But you can't see a real strike in many sectors because government can ban it, saying that it's against our national interests or it's a security problem. So the trade union movement isn't enough to answer the needs of the working class. Yes, there are millions of workers are in unions, but most of them are in public factories, and the public employees also have unions, but they don't have the right to strike. So if we look at the unions and the number of the members of the unions, we can say that there is no chance of the Turkish working class. But the class movement isn't the same thing with the trade union movement. Sometimes working class go on struggles with new atypic, newly unofficial organizations, sometimes associations, sometimes networks, and sometimes, especially in pandemic, we saw new type of workers' resistance. Directly, they were stopping work, and directly and illegally, and they don't have the legal right to stop work. For example, energy workers, electricity workers, or the what do you say, the motor courier,
The transportation
yes.
couriers, yeah.
Couriers, yeah. They went on new strikes, and as all over the world, the union movement is in a crisis, and because of that, yes, I am worker, I am a big working class in Turkey, I have demands, I have some sadnesses. The tool of union can't answer my questions, so I am going on resistant and uprising movements. So the uprising after 19th of March last year, I think it was a kind of unorganized workers' movement. Poor people went on streets, not all just supporters of mainstream, main opposition party of the dead candidate, İmamoğlu, etc. How can say that there were a boycott in 4th of April last year, and it was a huge boycott. It was against the corporations supporting ruling party, but I think it was a movement of poor people. It was one of the most effective and biggest boycotts in Turkish history. So if we look for a general strike, we won't see it. Maybe we will see some movements like the French working class does it. Block all the things, block everything. I couldn't remember the word by word, but they said it's legally, it is impossible to go on a general strike. But with boycotts, with street protests, with uprisings, with demonstrations, you can stop the life and force the bosses, the business sector, or the government to give you some rights. In Turkey, especially in the 21st century, in the first quarter of 21st century, the real and effective movements are illegal movements of or unofficial or what do you say? Kuralsız nedir?
No regulation, or it's
So working class. We will witness it more in the coming years, I think. Okay.
Good. Yeah. Thank you so much. Now, the last question, because we've gone over the time and it's more like about 10:30 there at night, and he's in a shopping mall. So anyway, let's go with Janet Coburn as taking the last question, please. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. I don't know if you were looking for the phrase "shut it down." But anyway, I couldn't quite understand a word you used in your presentation. I think it is neo-Ottomanism. Is that
Yeah.
okay?
Neo-Ottoman.
Right. And so I'm wondering if Turkey's larger project around its intervention in Syria that you talked about earlier is an example of neo-Ottomanism.
Uh-huh.
And just finally, would you share your contact information in the chat before you leave?
Okay, I will give my email address to the.
Ali, I can do that if you like. I can
Okay.
post it. Yeah,
Okay.
go ahead.
And there's no question, I think. It was just
No.
I just wanted, it's about, yeah, so Turkey's intervention in Syria, is that an example
not
of
just in
neo?
Syria, in Libya also, in Azerbaijan, and also in Gulf with Qatar, and in Africa with Djibouti and Somali.
Thank you.
We can see the footprints of neo-Ottomans there.
But is that the direction that Turkey is going to? Reaching out to Syria, other places. Is that part of the neo-Ottoman ideology?
Expanding.
Expanding, yes.
Yes, they will say that we won't change our map, but we will rule. Now Turkey is ruling many Syrian towns with Turkish governors. Two Turkish governors are governing 3 protectorate in Syria. It is obvious that there are 3 Turkish protectorates in Syria, and they are linked to Turkish governors. So officially our map isn't different, but we are occupying that land, and Turkey is occupying the Syrian land. Turkey is occupying the Cyprus land. And it's neo-Ottomanism, yes.
Well, thank you so much, Ali. It was a very good presentation. There were a lot of information that we didn't know from here. So we appreciate you, instead of going back to your hometown, staying for us and participating in this. And good luck with the demonstrations against especially the NATO bases and the organization there. And especially our support for you in your trials by the Turkish state for insulting the president or for supporting the freedom of speech. So with that, I would really thank everybody who came and participated. Please join us next week as well. We have another very good session that we're going to talk about how the U.S. working class is experiencing what is happening with the so-called decline of U.S. imperialism and other factors. So have a good rest of the weekend and see you next week, everybody. And thank you all for coming. Bye-bye now.
Bye-bye.
Stay safe.
Everybody, yes.